Empathy Power Up. Sorry for the late start. We had some technical difficulties today, but um, that's absolutely something that happens when we go live or don't go live in this case. But hello, Amy. How are you?
I'm doing great. Hello from sunny Tulum. I've got the glow on, like the sunny glow. So glad
Yeah,
to be
well,
here.
it's your 40th birthday week a month, and I'm excited to celebrate that and continue and seeing the amazing stuff you're doing in Mexico. But welcome to your weekly Power Up, folks, your Empathy Power Up, where we're going to talk about some interesting topics that we find interesting and share how we can continue building empathy throughout our lives as well as our workplaces. Today's topic in the theme of Valentine's Day and the week of Valentine's Day is love, love, love. And it's Amy. I just learned that that's one of your favorite songs by Dave. Who was it again?
Johnny Hathaway.
Yes, and oh my goodness. So we're going to talk about love because what's really important is this idea of bringing love in all the spaces we are, breaking down. It was this white supremacist notion of if having a professional keep love for private life and you do your work and that's it. And more we're learning is we need to bring humanity into all spaces, and love is fundamental to humanity because we all need love, thrive for love. We need, and love is so important. um, there was a quote, Amy, you were reading the book you're reading by Bell Hooks. Would love to kick off with that.
Yeah. So first off, I'm reading this book called All About Love, New Visions by Bell Hooks. And I'm reading it as part of a program called Self Carefully that I'm doing to become a leader that supports other folks in growing in their self care and caring for each other. And I think care and love go hand in hand in a lot of these ways. So this certification that I'm going through is having us read this book. And since I've been on this trip I've been reading the book and having some great realizations from it. And I wanted to bring a quote from Bell Hooks that actually came up on Ibram Kendi's website today. That was just like great reminder. And if you are a fan of Bell Hooks, or even if you've never heard of it before, she did pass away in December of last year. So she left behind, I think, like 20 or 30 different books. And on the back of the book, it actually talks about this is the acclaimed first volume in her Love Song to the Nation. And this quote really struck me because although she's talking about it in the context of like love between two people or intimate love, I think that there's a love that you can bring to the workplace that this really fits as well. And she says, a generous heart is always open, always ready to receive our going and coming. In the midst of such love, we need never fear abandonment. This is the most precious gift true love offers, the experience of knowing we always belong.
The experience of knowing we always belong. It's so interesting. And what's also great is the first part of that quote, where it's about the generous heart is generous in receiving, not just giving alone. And a lot of us, we need to open our hearts to receiving love as well. I think that is a big part of what we're talking about here as well today.
Mm-hmm.
But wow, what a great quote and a great
Mm-hmm.
way to kick it off. Especially around the experience of love you talked about. Want to get your thoughts about that?
Yeah, this is the most precious gift true love offers, the experience of knowing we always belong. And in a lot of ways, we go to a space of like when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, we get lost and mired into this conversation and like being like, oh, this is going to be a hard conversation. This is going to be stuff where it's like we're going to really celebrate, talk about our differences and really bring those to light. And I really think that that in a way, it's not always about celebrating our differences. It's about like seeing how alike we are as humans. And one of my trainings and work that I did, we I looked at the DNA structure of us as humans. I think I've mentioned this before because I think it's hilarious, amazing though, is that we have 60% of the same DNA as a banana, as humans. So we are connected to not just, and we're 99% like the person who's next to us. So, building this sense of like how alike we are rather than the differences that we share. And it makes me think about a recent conversation that I was having, that our collaborator Rudy was coming in, and I brought him in to speak with one of my clients that I'm working with, and we're thinking about South by Southwest in the near future, and having this idea of we want to have Rudy creates this immersive dinner experience. And by immersive, I don't necessarily mean putting on a VR headset, bringing in the blockchain or like NFTs, like the buzzwords of the day. I actually think about bringing to a deeper sense of connection, authenticity, of empathy between each other. And so there's two interesting contrasted experiences that happened. I had him come in to talk to two different teams with my team, the client, and one of them, he had this idea of, I'm going to put a presentation together. I'm going to be so professional, like the way that I think a lot of ways we're taught, right? You have to prepare. And what happened is that he got so caught up in the doing and the preparation that he got nervous. And I think this is a microcosm of what it's like in our world today, is that we want to show perfection. We want to share, and just show this perfect side to ourselves. And that is not realistic, right? But contrasting that with the second side, where yesterday he presented to a separate team, like our innovation team at this client. And this time around, when I coached him and I said, really, Rudy, you didn't show up last time in that way that I know and love. How about you just not have a deck, just meet and be authentic and be yourself? And as things turned out, I couldn't attend that meeting, but I trusted Rudy to go ahead and meet with these people. And some things they said in the middle of it was like, oh my gosh, like you were incredible. Like you're amazing, like in the middle of that, like with Rudy, they said that directly to Rudy and they just met him, right? They knew and could feel the love and authenticity coming from him. And then finally, the director of the lab said, you're exactly the types of entrepreneurs that we want to work with and want to engage with. And I think that those are two polar opposites of a similar experience, which is a microcosm of what happens in our workplace. And, if we show up with authenticity, if we show up with who we are and just trying to have a dialogue and being like, this is who I am, and let's have a conversation and get to know each other, that goes so much further. So
yeah,
long story, but yeah.
Love that. And what's so interesting is that it's so apparent when you feel genuine love to your work or to others, to the community you're working for, it is apparent and people will jump on it right away because we humans love love. We love love. We want to love ourselves. We want others to love us. We want to love others. It's something that is just as important as, slightly less, but important as breathing, in that we need love to continue to thrive, to continue to move. And this idea that Bell Hooks quote talked about, which is gives you the sense of belonging. Love gives you the sense of belonging. Companies want to create a culture of belonging. Companies are all trying to say, how do everyone feels like they belong? Because if you belong, you have a high sense of ownership. You feel like you are part of that company, that the company is part of you. You have a sense of ownership and you deliver and you do amazing stuff for them. So this sense of belonging is this amazing end goal. And a key part of that is love. It's when we share love publicly, openly, when we generously give, but we also generously receive love, because that shows that it's safe to give love as well. because sometimes people want to give love but may be afraid to give because you don't know how it's going to be received. And the love can be in form of recognition, rewards, being proactive, not having people to ask for love, but just sharing love and being in meetings. And there's so many meetings I'm in and teams that work with me. I just say, like, I love you all. I love you all so much. And I say that because I genuinely mean it, because they are putting in their most important resource, which is their time, into the mission that we're on and the work we're doing. It is such an important thing to recognize that as love, because if it wasn't love, and if they're in that, and if it's not genuine, maybe help them find what they love, because that is an act of love in itself. So when a manager, someone comes to you and says, I want to do something else, it is an act of love to say, let me help you land on the next spot better as well. So show that genuine love. Are you there?
Yeah, instead of I had myself on mute. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, yeah, it's showing that genuine love. And I mentioned that you mentioned, and I really feels deeply with me, is like receiving love.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the past, I have always felt comfortable receiving love, because it's just like, you need to be humble, you need to do all these things, and like, not just sharing love, but like I just receiving love. And when somebody says I love you, like sometimes I get very overwhelmed, because it's like, dang, I feel that, right? So it's really nice. You can get addicted to that feeling. So
yeah. And so I think what the next step, like on love, and especially love in professional workplaces, is this idea of where historically people in power, you want to show you want to be strong. You want to be like, I am strong and I'm tough and blam, and love is the opposite of powerful. But that is not the case. And your book, it has an amazing quote by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. That talks about love and power. Would love to dive into that.
Absolutely. So this quote is at the beginning of my book. Actually, the middle of my book, in chapter 12. The chapter is called "Power at Play: Shaping and Shifting Power," and it goes like this. I have a quote at the beginning of each one of my chapters, and number one is, at the beginning of this chapter, it says, one of the greatest problems of history is that the concepts of love and power have usually been contrasted as polar opposites, so that love is identified with a resignation of power, and that power with a denial of love. What is needed is a realization that power without love is reckless and abusive, and that love without power is sentimental and anemic. And power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice, and justice at its best is love correcting everything that stands against love.
Correcting everything that stands against love is such an important part of justice. And the fact that love and power go so well together, because when you show love and you bring power to that love, it can be power of a mother, it can be power of a spouse, a friend, a boss, a leader, a colleague, an employee. That shows impact. And when you can tell when you have leaders that are only about power, but they separate love out. And map out those leaders. They have caused more harm to the world than they have helped. They have caused more harm to the communities. And especially if you look at the worst leaders that have caused the most harm, it is because they either did not feel love, or they removed love from the power. What a powerful quote to bring into this conversation about love, where it is important to have leaders, especially leaders, because they are in a power position, to come and show and share love. I am fortunate enough where my leader just brings a lot of love for everyone and for themselves, for the teams, and it's very genuine. And it's easy to humans can tell if love is genuine or not. That is something that we evolutionarily understand so well instinctually. And so it's important for us to, in our pursuit of justice, in our pursuit of belonging, that love be part of that language. And in the spirit of Valentine's Day and the love is a theme, it's such an important thing to reflect on, and invite all of y'all listening to reflect on Where and how are you bringing love into every workspace, every space you do? One of the things I do very intentionally, any store I go to, to get a coffee, or to go to even the dog store or whatever, I share love with the frontline folks, because I genuinely mean it. Because they're there during, like, while I'm sitting and working from home, they're there helping the community. And I say, thank you for helping the community. And that is an act of love. Share that love with each other. That is so important. And it is powerful, because then when I do that, immediately I see a light bulb change. And the person is like, oh, thanks. And then they talk, they share, they spend a little moment with me. And I take that moment, and it's another way of receiving love. Would love to get your final thoughts.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, I think bringing it full circle around the idea of love in the workplace. I think what is needed as we think about what the future of work is going to be like, and the future of this, like I was saying, like the future of work is not necessarily always going forward with like in the latest technologies, but it might be a stepping backward, right? To think
I wouldn't
about
even say stepping backward, Amy, or like stepping into humanity.
yeah, exactly. Stepping backward sounds like you're regressing into something, right? That's true. But I think it's stepping into ourselves as humans, and what does that look like? And as the story I shared earlier with Rudy shows, that like once you show up with authenticity and humanity at the center of it, you literally change the dialogue and the conversation, and people open up to you. So take that as an example, a microcosm of what we can do in the workplace. Is that how can you share love and engage with love in the workplace, and how do we make it more, I guess the word ubiquitous is coming in my mind. It's such a big word, but like, how do we make sure that it's part of our everyday life is what it comes
Yeah.
down to, right?
Love that. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for bringing this topic up. I love you, Amy, and we know we both love our community that we have built here. It's incredible. We're going to be taking next week off. We're going to come back the week after. So we'll see you in 2 weeks. Share love. You are loved. Love, love, love. Take care, everyone.
Bye. Take care. Thank you.